So I'm Sam Short from Short Marine, and here today with Eric Sorensen.
Morning, Sam.
All the way over from the US.
Absolutely.
Eric spent 25 years in the US Navy and the Coast Guard. He spent the last 20 years consulting to the world's biggest boat manufacturers and dealers.
Right.
And
a legend in my own mind.
And he's an author of his own book, Sorensen's Guide to Power Boats. Today we thought we'd tackle one of the most common things that every boat owner should know well, which is anchoring. So we thought we'd go over the 5 key things that you like to think through whenever you're anchoring in a bay.
Sure.
Why don't you kick us off?
Okay, the first thing on the position depends on what you want to do. Do you want to be near another boat that's anchored? Do you want to be near the beach? Do you want to have an easy way to get out when it's dark? You know, whatever the conditions are. So you determine your position. Next thing I'll do, based on the position that I'm going to anchor, doing an assessment. How deep is the water? How many boats are around me, close to me? Are there any obstructions? And what do I expect, depending on how long I'm going to be there? How hard is the wind going to blow? Is the tide going to change direction? So all these things that'll impact my position and also the strain on the anchor are taken into consideration.
Yeah, and a good thing to consider as well when you're talking about not only what the wind is doing at that moment, but forecasting it for how long you're going to be there. There's really good apps out there like Sea Breeze and Windy.
The next thing that I would do after the assessment is determine the scope. And the scope is the ratio between the depth of water and how much line you let out. And, in fairly benign conditions, so if you only have, say, up to 10 knots of wind and just a little bit of current, then 3 to 1, 15 meters of line and 5 meters of water usually works pretty well. And then if you have more wind and or more current, you want to let a little bit more line out, so it's say a 4 to 1 scope, so 20 meters and 5 meters of water. And then if it's over 20 knots of wind, that's putting quite a bit of strain on the anchor, then you probably want to go to a 5 to 1 scope and or reconsider whether you want to be anchoring when you have so much wind in those conditions, and certainly be more vigilant the more wind you have and or current. So now we've found the perfect spot, right? Beautiful day, all our mates are here and there, and we want to be between them. So what we'll do, if we've come up with a scope of, say, 30 meters of anchor line out, so we'll go 30 meters into the wind or current, whichever is stronger. From that point,
I think a good way for people to determine that, if you can't, do the dip test, but is to look at other boats around you, and all of the other boats would be pointing at least somewhat into the wind or the current. So it's a good indicator for you to approach it on that same angle.
Then we'll head basically the same direction everybody else is heading when they're anchored, and then we stop the boat, and then we get ready to let the anchor go and let it go.
How can people know if they've let 50 meters out?
That's a really good point. You're just guessing unless you've either marked the line or you have a chain counter. If the boat doesn't come with a chain counter, you can have one put on, or you can mark the line with tape or by seizing it with line. And you can even put different colors on there, like in the Navy, for example, green, red, yellow, blue, green is a good way to mark it, say every 5 feet or 10 feet, whatever you want, and you know by how many colors you have out, exactly how much line you have out. So once you have your scope out and you have it tied off to the cleat, you want to check and make sure the anchor isn't going to drag. And the way you do that is you put the engines in reverse at an idle, let the anchor line come tight, and then slowly increase the speed to say 1500 RPM is typically enough. And you pick out an object right on the beam or right on the side of the boat. Say you have a tree and behind that is a house. You want the tree to stay lined up in the same position on the house. It's called a range. And if those stay stationary after you've been backing down for a minute or two, then the anchor's gonna hold.
Great. It's time to head home, and so we need to retrieve the anchor. What are some of the key points that we want to be looking for?
First of all, you want to have somebody in the bow because they have a clear picture. They can see which way the line's leading, and they can really direct the driver of the boat. You want to avoid a couple of things. One is putting strain on the windlass as you're retrieving the anchor. You want the boat to do the work of driving up to the anchor. You want to keep taking the line in using the windlass without a lot of strain on it. And then when you're directly above it, you can stop the windlass and even let the boat come forward a little bit and break the anchor free of the bottom. Because if you've put a lot of strain on the anchor, and especially if you've been there for a while, the anchor is really going to be dug into the bottom quite a bit, and you don't want to put all that strain on the windlass. So when the anchor is what we call up and down, directly below the boat, stop the windlass, and then let the momentum of the boat going ahead break it free of the bottom, and then you can haul it up. Here we are, beautiful day, Sydney Harbor. And who would want to be here, anchored, having a good time?
The thing is, you're only having a good time if you're able to relax.
Well, here's the way I look at it, Sam. You know, when I'm out on a boat, I want to relax. When you're driving, I got to tell you, sometimes I can't relax. You know, so I can't wait to get on the anchor and shut the engines off so we don't get into trouble. You know, and this is the way we do it. We follow all these steps, and then I'm not worried about anything at that point because it's the anchor doing the work and not Sam Short.
Yeah.